All right. I'm a little sad because, good morning, y'all. I'm a little sad because I went to go visit one of my patients and she never talks, right? And I always go and I do her blood pressure and all these things. As you know, I'm a hospice nurse, and she never really talks. Like, she'll just like make like random sounds or gurgly words or whatever, garbled words, but it's never like words like communication, right? So I go in today to her, and your patient is always gonna know when they're gonna pass away. They know it, right? Well, at least that's what they taught us. So I go in today and I'm expecting her not to talk. Normally I'll be like, "Hey, sweetie poo," and then she'll just look at me and she'll smile, no words. I walk in today and I say, "Hey," what did I say? I said, "Hey, boobie," and she's like, "Good morning." I said, "You okay?" She goes, I was like, "Okay." And I said, "All right, well, I'm just gonna do your blood pressure and everything as normal, like I normally do." And she goes, "Okay," and she smiles. She doesn't have any teeth in her mouth. She's 99, no teeth in her mouth, and she smiles with her no teeth. And I'm like, "Oh." I'm like, "What is going on today?" And she's like, "Nothing." I said, "What?" So I went to the other nurse and I'm like, "Y'all know," we're gonna call her Rainbow because she's my baby. I'm like, "Y'all know Rainbow's talking?" They're like, "Rainbow never talks. Rainbow doesn't talk." And I said, "She's talking." And then I remembered that they had trained us that there's a thing called surge. When they're about to pass away, they get this burst of energy. Like, they'll talk, they'll eat, all these things. And I said, "Oh." And after the surge is usually when they pass away. I go back in the room. I'm like, "Okay, Rainbow, I'm going to take your blood pressure and stuff." She's like, "Okay." I was like, "Oh my gosh, she's talking." I'm sorry. So then I'm doing her blood pressure and she goes, and she touches me right here. She goes, "Thank you for everything you've ever done for me." I said, "Oh my." So I'm taking her blood pressure and I'm like, "Dana, don't you cry in front of this lady. She's the sweetest, most lovable, cutest." So I take her blood pressure. It's done. I take it off of her and I said, "Okay, honey, I'm going to cover you back up. And, you know, I'm going to go now." And she's like, "Okay." I was like, "Oh my God." So I walk back. I said, "Yo, Rainbow is talking. She's talking." And they were like, "Oh no, that means it's almost time." And I said, "I know." Anyway, let's go back to that. Made me sad because I really love that little lady. Like, you can tell when somebody has been pleasant like their whole life. She's one of those that you can tell she's been pleasant her whole life. And the whole time I've had her, she never told. We just thought that she didn't speak at all. Like, okay, well, she doesn't talk. Homegirl was having. Anyway, reason number 16 as to why I think God is going to turn my mother's story into a Netflix movie. So let's backtrack. Remember, I told y'all in the previous story that any other interactions that I had with Sugar Ray was now going to be recorded. And that is exactly what I did. And I cannot wait for Tyler Perry to direct this movie of my mother's story because I have all of the recordings. It's really one, two, three. It's three recordings that I have of him. Three. So let me tell y'all the story. He calls me one day. Sugar Ray calls me one day and says, "Hey, I need you to come to the house." And I said, "Okay." Mind you, he's staying with his brother now because he can't go to my mom's house or their house that they were living in together because he needs to be watched for 24 hours, 24-hour care. And I couldn't do it because I was working, right? Mind you, my mortgage is still behind. But I put it in my heart and I said it in my heart. I said, "You know what? I'm going to help this man because this is who my mother chose to marry." But I did not know exactly what happened as of yet. So I'm going off of respecting my mother instead of following my intuition, right? So he's like, "Yeah, I need you to come to the house. We got to talk about some things." I said, "Okay, absolutely no problem." And he goes, "Oh, and by the way, I have somebody that is assigned to pick up the mail for me so that when my brother goes to the house and I go with him, I go to him to go pick up the mail." And I'm like, "That's freaking weird because why don't you just leave the mail in a thing if you're being driven to your house like every week? Why would you assign somebody to pick up the mail? So I said, okay, bet, who's picking up the mail? Who did you assign to pick up the mail? And plus, I was already going back and forth to West Palm Beach for court for my mom. So I said, who did you assign? He goes, oh, the man next door, da-da-da-da. And I was like, oh, okay, I remember him. Cool, right? But I didn't tell him I was going to sneak and go get the mail. Boom. So I was supposed to go to work that day, but because everything that was going on, I was depressed. I just couldn't get through it. My mother had been dead at that time. It was probably like a month and 29 days. I remember exactly a month and 29 days. And remember, Sugar Ray had been fucking me over consistently since then, right? But I still had to entertain him because I didn't want to do any red flags to let him know that I was on to him, because I wanted to see what else he had up his sleeve, right? So too much was going on, and I said, you know what? I'm just going to take today off, and I'm just going to roll with the day, right? So my other aunt was like, hey, don't forget to go to probate court to start your mother's process of da-da-da-da-da. So I was like, all right, I'll start her probate paperwork. Went to do the probate paperwork, started it off for her, paid the $300 and change for it. Okay. No help from him. Mind you, he got her 401k. No help from him. So, paid that, and then all that took maybe like an hour and a half, right? So I realized that I had to pee. I'm already in West Palm Beach. Mommy's house is 10 minutes away. If you know me, I'm always going to say mommy's house because that's my mother. I know you're living with her, but that's just naturally what comes out of my mouth. Mommy's house. So I was like, mommy's house is 10 minutes away. I have the key. I'm going to go pee at mommy's house, right? Before I get on the road and drive the hour back. So I had to pee so bad. So I said, all right, let me just go pee. I get in front of the house. I park. I put my key in the door. I'm like, I said, no. I called my uncle. I said, maybe I'm losing my mind. I call my uncle. I call my sweetest uncle that don't have a manipulative bone in his body. He's the sweetest uncle ever. I call him first. Because, you know, some uncles you just gravitate easier towards because they have more logic than manipulation in their mind, right? Because I was like, I just need positive vibes, right? So I call him first, and I said, Uncle, and he goes, what's wrong? Because if you know me, if I ever call you for anything, you already know there's a problem. I don't call nobody for shit. So if you see my number coming through on your phone as incoming call, you already know this. So the homeboy picked up the phone on the second ring. He's like, what's wrong? I said, no, nobody else is dead. Right. And he's like, what's wrong? And I said, I can't get inside of mommy's house. So he goes, huh? And I said, I think this nigga changed the locks. He goes, no, Dane, I don't think he would do that. Would he do that? And I said, but remember, I did not tell him all of the bad things that he was saying because I'm like, I need to record him. I need proof, right? And he's like, would he do that? And I said, he's like, okay. Maybe it's an old lock. Call your stepdad and see, like, what's going on. So I said, all right. So I hung up with my uncle and I said, you know what? I'm not going to call. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show up to his brother's house and I'm going to ask the nigga, what's up? Right? But before I got there, I went to go pick up the mail from the person that he had assigned to pick up and collect mail. So basically, the mailman comes, puts the mail in the thing. This person comes to the house, opens it, takes the mail out, and holds the mail for him. And I'm like, why do all of that if I'm available to pick up the mail? And sometimes your brother comes to drop you off at the house to... Why do all of that? That's just too much, right?